Hi everyone, it's James here from Pro Tools Expert, back down in the shed, and Rich from Create Pro has joined me.
How?
That's very, very Native American of you.
Why not?
Right, so you can tell it's already descended into all levels of chaos. But one of the things we get asked all too often is this whole thing about the metaphorical clean system. Now I've got this beautifully upgraded and supercharged, all singing, all dancing Mac Pro cheese grater. But to be fair, and Rich was quite shocked when I told him, I've never flattened the system in nearly 8 years. So what we thought we'd do is we'd do a video of actually going through the process of installing or reinstalling back to a clean system. I think it was a year or 2 years ago, Russ did a comparison kind of video on the difference in performance and speed between a clean and a dirty system.
Yeah.
So how do we do it?
Lots of ways of doing it. The way we're going to do it is the way that I would do it. So I'm a practicing musician now as well. So I'm going to do it the way that I've done it, but also the way that at Create Pro, when we build a new system, a few of the fundamentals that we bring into that. So it's going to involve a couple of extra drives. We're going to kind of, because we're doing your machine, we're going to be under the pretense that, you know, you've got a new SSD, maybe you're going from a hard drive. In this case, you've already got an SSD, but we're fortunate enough to have a secondary sort of backup one we're going to use. But we're trying to assume that your average Joe has got his Mac Pro. He hasn't changed it in 5 or 6 years. And so we've got another drive that we're going to go to, but then we're also going to use a third drive that's going to be what we call our vanilla install, which is once we've got the OS built to a certain degree, we're then going to back that up so that once all your drivers and Pro Tools and plugins start going on, if we hit any brick walls at that point, we've still got an install that's vanilla.
We haven't got to go right back to square one.
Exactly.
We've got a system that is, the Mac will work.
Yep.
It'll have the drivers for graphics card or whatever to make things
it have
happen.
all the inbuilt parts of OS X. We'll have all the software updates done, and maybe little things like system preferences. So, you know, you might like your mouse set up a normal way. It sets it into natural mode now, which some of you may like. I hate it, which means that if you push up, the cursor goes down on taskbars and stuff, and I can't stand that. So, on scroll bars. So, we'll do that, but we're going to start this from the basis of saying, right, here's the OS, how we've been using it for X amount of time. We've got a nice clean backup that's put to one side in case lightning strikes.
Let's backtrack just for a second.
Yep.
So the processes we've been through before we hit this point are, we've backed up the OS drive, which happens to be a 1 terabyte SSD.
Yep.
We've backed that up to a completely separate, I think in this case it was a Western Digital separate USB 3 drive. That's now, if this afternoon, halfway through this process, I get a call that says I need to be able to do drum parts in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I can at least copy that back onto my SSD.
Yep.
And I'm up and running.
Exactly.
We've tested it. Yep. It boots. It's all there.
Well, you've made a bootable backup. So even if everything went kaput, you've still got a bootable one. Just one quick note there. Probably a lot of you are using either Time Machine, Super Duper, or in our instance, Carbon Copy Cloner, CCC. My preferred one, and I think yours too, is Carbon Copy Cloner, because it will do a bit for bit copy. So before you get started with this, you can plug in your USB drive and you can open Carbon Copy Cloner. We'll put the links in the bottom of the video.
Absolutely. They are going to be down there about now.
Down there. And it will literally do a bit for bit bootable clone of it. So we'll assume you're at that level, because that gets dismounted off the Mac, unplugged, put it up on the shelf, and you know that you're safe. If it all fails, you've got that bootable original copy, and it is important. If you make money from making music or whatever you're doing with the Mac, then you've got to have something that's bootable.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things we've talked about time and time again, and I've been bitten by not having good backup. I've been bitten hard by it to the tune of 4 figures.
Yeah.
So good backup. we'll probably be saying that several times during this
Yes,
video.
at
Good
least.
backup is so important. But we've got the backed up system drive.
Yep.
That's now on a shelf, buried
Yep.
behind cardboard boxes, never to be seen again unless
Yep.
we need it. We've also wiped the
New drive that's going in.
new drives going in.
Yep.
And we've also installed the secondary one.
Yeah, so basically, I'll do this because it will start getting confusing. We've got the backup, we've got a new drive installed, so that may be a new SSD, whatever. That's in the Mac, and then we've actually got a third drive. That's another one. You may not have one, so we're not saying you've got to do this.
But it doesn't have to be an SSD. It could be a rotational
anything.
drive.
And this is just sitting there so that once we've got the new clean OS X onto the new drive, so at this point we're not migrating any data, we're not changing anything, we're not deleting or moving, we're just installing the clean OS onto that new SSD, and the third one will kick in after an hour's worth of us getting into this and you fast forwarding.
Yes, much fast forwarding. Of course, the one thing we can't do with all these things happening on the Mac to the Mac itself is we can't run screen capture because obviously
we're restarting, we're coming in and out, and
so we're going to put a camera kind of over our shoulder behind us so you at least get to see what's going on the screen.
And you know we're really doing it.
Apologies if it looks a bit rough in places. That's mainly because we're doing it for real. We're not faking it.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully you'll get something from this and it will make you go out and go, right, I'm going to clean up my machine.
Yep.
This has been 8 years in the brewing process. So hopefully I'll be able to report back a much improved, a much sped? Who knows?
Sped. And also, sorry, just for the record, if at any point through this, obviously the questions underneath, as we've done on the other videos that we've worked with you, we're there to answer stuff really quickly. Okay, so this might go at a speed of knots, but it's the only way to do it, isn't it? So if you get stuck, just post the question and we'll answer.
We won't necessarily get back to you because, quite frankly, I won't know the answer. But the guys from Create Pro, Rich in particular, the one thing we love about working with you guys is you have been very vocal on the forums and on the Facebook.
Yes, well, it all helps, doesn't it? So it's worth following it up.
Cool. So watch carefully. I will be sitting back and hoping that this all goes as well as it probably should. So we'll see you again shortly once you're looking over our shoulders. Okay, so tell us where we're at, Rich.
Where we're at. So we've got a nice clean desktop here.
Last time that'll ever happen.
Yeah, we've shut down pretty much all of your apps. We've got a few here, like your control panel for UAD. We've got the EU control. So these are background apps that are just running that. It's going to do it anyway when we when we start the process, but it's good practice to make sure everything's shut down. Now, a couple of quick things I'm just going to show you guys at home is firstly where you're going to find a few things. Now, a lot of you are going to know, so I'm going to make this as painless as I can. On James's machine, we've got SSD 1T. This is your OS drive where all your apps are installed.
This is the old one.
The old one, your usable OS. So we've got your 8 years worth of bump in here.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So as a quick rule of thumb, it's just so you understand where some of your things are, not personally you, but you at home. In your OS drive, if you look through its initial, initially when you the first page, you have your library. Now this is the library for the whole of OS X. This isn't your user library, but this is what all of OS X looks at, no matter what account you're in, your account, whatever. So we go into library and then we head over to audio, and then in here you've got all different bits and bobs. If you've got Logic, you'll have Apple loops. Impulse responses are for the the
reverbs and stuff,
reverb and whatnot. Down here we've got plugins. Now this is all of the plugins that are outside of DigiDesign / Avid plugins. If you've gone back from way back, you've probably got DigiDesign stuff in there as well that you would have maybe never have cleared out. It looks like you did, so that's good. But you'll see you've got VST, you've got components, obviously audio units, and within this, you've got bits and bobs that aren't included, maybe like Native Instruments stuff, Spectrasonics. Your UAD ones do reside in here. So it's not so much that we're going to copy any of this at the moment, but it's just knowing where you're at with it, because in all honesty, this is the one that's going to give you headaches once we've got a clean OS on. Doing the door, getting all of that stuff running, that's the easy bit.
The thing I've said is because I want it to be a clean and up-to-date system as possible,
Yep.
I am going to use my iLock list.
Yep.
And I'm going to go through my list of iLock assets, and I'm going to download what's appropriate for my iLock.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to start ramping this and covering it in demo software and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think, as a rule of thumb, because, you at some point somebody will open that session from 2011, 2009, whenever it may be, and it's going to want to pull one of these up.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying reinstall all of it, but even if you just did a screen grab of this list, if you put it into the list view and you can see all of it there, I don't know whether you guys know this at home, if you do Control Shift and 4, that gives you your lasso, and you can just kind of, go over there, ping that, it will give you the screenshot, and then you could do that throughout the list.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good rule of thumb.
It works pretty well.
The other place that we were just speaking about, obviously, go into applications, go to Avid, and then where have we got it in here? Pro Tools, and then we've got your other plugins in. Where are they, Jane? It's DPM plugins, isn't it?
Those are all your old ones. Those are your non-H.
RTAS and whatnot. Yeah. And then
AAX plugins are at the top.
Yes, of course, sorry. So, once again, not so much that we're too worried about this now. We're going to use the iLock. You can do that at home. I personally, if you're a bit sketchy about this, just do some screen grabs of it. So you've just got that list, so you're not scratching your head in the future. So, okay, so moving onwards and upwards, we was talking about the hard drives. Here we've got Clean OS. Now, if we go into Disk Utility, then we can see here we've got various hard drives. This one here, the 1 terabyte SSD, that's your old SSD. That's the one we're currently in. So this is one that's got all that data on it from all the years gone by. Next one, we've got this 512. We've named it Clean OS. Now, we can change that name once we've done the install, but at this point, it's all about not getting confused.
Yeah.
On top of that, we've got the third disk that we spoke about, which we've named Vanilla Clean OS. This is a normal hard drive. It's just one you had knocking about. That's been formatted as well, and it's called Vanilla Clean OS. Vanilla meaning that it's at the point where we've got OS X ready, primed, to start getting all your actual data on, and all your drivers and your plugins and your door.
And all the stuff that effectively slows the machine down.
Exactly. So it just means that if we get anything wrong, we might install an update that kills everything else. Heaven forbid, we've got this clean OS that we're going to go back to. But we'll go back to that later anyway. So, okay, no further ado. In my hands here, we have... what we've got on here, I'm going to bring up a web page. We've got a USB hard drive. On that is a copy of OS X 10.10 Yosemite, and it is the installer. Now, you're all probably saying, well, how's he got the installer? Because it normally just downloads from the App Store. Well, if you do it that way, which is how you need to get the installer, or El Capitan, or any of the OSs, but you can only get 10 or 11 on the App Store now. It's going to want to, if you install it from your drive that you download to, it's going to want to install it to that drive. We don't want to do that, because then it's going to rewrite over this drive we're in now.
We don't want that.
All that old rubbish comes over. We don't want it. So what we've done is we've used this handy little app here, which is an amazing app. It's free. It's called Diskmaker X. It's at diskmakerx.com. Once again, links will be at the bottom.
Down there somewhere.
And basically it will mount the download. There's nothing kind of iffy about it or anything.
Yep.
It just downloads the normal retail installer that you've got from the App Store, and it allows you to take it off of your hard drive or SSD and put it onto an external bootable drive. That is such a godsend for this, because otherwise there's other ways to do it, but it starts getting really complicated. So Disk Maker X, it just follow the README. We're not going to go through that now. There's no point. It's super simple to use. Once you've got this, and you can plug this into any of your machines, and it will allow you to install OS X of that version to wherever you want to do it. The next one that we did speak about also was Carbon Copy Cloner, which is at bombish.com, and that is what we use for doing the clones of your backup earlier. Once again, it's all very simple to use. It's a 30-day trial, so you can use it for this, but I advise you to get it anyway. It's a lifesaver. And it will also allow us to create the vanilla clean OS once we've done the install from here. So if you're all following us and you're following me, then
let's begin.
Then we shall begin. So we're going to start off by literally popping this in, if you wouldn't mind doing the do. And we're going to go down to, I'll tell you what we're going to do actually. We're going to do this in a way that maybe a lot of people might not know. Holding down the Alt button, when a Mac, you can see it's just popped up there, that's the installer. We're going to hold down Alt when we restart the machine. And the reason we do that is because it brings up the glorious startup disk mode. So hit restart, hold down Alt.
And this is why we're not doing screen cap.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, it would knock it all out. So what this does is in the EFI, which is the part of the Mac's BIOS, if you like, as it turns on before it even looks at any OS X, it allows the Mac itself to look at all your drives that have got a startup disk. So once again, hopefully you're all bearing with me on this. It's simpler than it sounds.
Well, I've been scared of doing it for the last, I think all it's been is, there's been such a build-up of stuff. And actually, let's take this opportunity now to say, do not do this in the middle of a project.
No.
I've actually got some downtime while I'm going to rebuild the studio. That's what we're doing it now.
Okay, so what we've got here, we've got SSD 1T. That's your normal working hard drive with your nice little Pro Tools emblem on there. Next one is recovery. Now, recovery, for those that don't know what it means, is just a part of this drive. It's on the same drive that allows you to recover the hard disk if that failed. It dials through to Apple, takes a couple of centuries to download a clean OS, and allows you to repair it. With this little wonder that we've just created, the white disk, which is the Yosemite 10.10.5 install USB disk, it allows you to bypass this. This is like an admin's dream. Okay, so it's much better. So we're going to select that, and it will now allow us to go into Yosemite and actually choose what disk we want to fool about with, basically. Not touching your original SSD that's got 8 years worth of stuff on it.
Because the likelihood is this is not a quick process. I'm going to be downloading software from the App Store. For example, I'm going to have to download. The first thing I have to download will be Final Cut, because otherwise this video is not going to get edited without it.
Yes. Well, yeah. Good luck with Final Cut. That I don't think Final Cut is as bad as it used to be. Final Cut Studio was like 9 DVDs or something.
No, it's about 500 meg.
I don't think it has
500 meg to a gig now.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the content in there. Logic is the one. So I know we're not doing this for Logic in this case, but the same principles apply across the board. So here we go. So to set, this is the normal thing. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not. If some of you are on like 10.8 or 10.7 or even 10.6, for a start, this actually looks very different to the installer back then. And you may not have used it for 5 years. So, you may have only seen it once before. At this point on Yosemite, it's showing us all of those drives. So this is where naming drives correctly, if you just leave them Macintosh HD1, HDD1, HDD2, you know, it's a minefield. So by doing it this way, we know that clean OS is the one we wanted. Vanilla is going to be the backup of the clean. So we select that. You asked me about customization just before we did the video. There's not a lot.
Because it used to be, I mean, back in the days of OS 8
Yes.
and 7.7.5,
Yeah.
I could get an OS down to around about 160 meg.
Yes. Yeah.
By
yeah.
stripping out all the old printer drivers and all the languages I wasn't using.
Yeah, exactly.
And that ability, I know, is long gone.
I think, though, there's still a lot of people out there that think that you can do that and that there's some magical thing that you'll do that will make the system 10 times faster. I'll be honest with you, if you're on a Mac from within the last 5 years, there's not really much you can do. There are other apps that if you want to ask questions, put them in the bit down below and we can go into it on, Q&A. There's things that can strip out the languages, but seeing as these videos go across the world, I could tell you to strip out everything but English, and then maybe half of you are going to go, thanks, I can't even use it now.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So, OS X is pretty stripped down now. They don't put iLife into it. That used to be one of the big ones. They put iLife into all the installs, so you'd have iMovie, iTunes, iPhoto, GarageBand with all the other rubbish that goes with it.
I wish they did.
Well, if you're using it, you're gonna have to put that in separately, but they don't now. So for a lot of people, though, that's a godsend because it's less stuff to strip out. So back to this. So we've selected clean OS. That's all good. It won't take that long. If you do that, you can do it off a USB key when we create this DiskMaker X disk. As we messed about with earlier, if you do it off a USB key, if it's USB 2.0, it's probably going to take about an hour, and then doing this bit is going to take about another hour and a half. This is a USB 3 disk. It's a normal small hard drive. Well, it literally is going to be like 10 12 minutes.
So at that point, let's sign off for now while the taskbar thing starts to zoom across. 12 minutes. We're going to sign off now, and we'll come back when it's all started to move a bit further that way.
Perfect.
It's finished installing and it's restarted.
It's restarted, yeah, so it's going to automatically restart to the new drive.
The Clean OS.
Clean OS, exactly. This is a completely clean install, so it's going to ask for a new admin. One rule of thumb, something that I do personally, is I always create like a sort of local account, and that account is where I download all my stuff to, such as all the new plugin installers, maybe the new Pro Tools installer, all that kind of stuff. And the reason that I do that, I'm not going to sign into any of your iCloud or anything at the moment. It's not needed.
I haven't got it.
You haven't got it.
I haven't got an iCloud.
But yeah, so at this point, I can do it now if you want, or do you want to just create the James Ivy account?
I'll have the standard James Ivy account just
Fine.
because it's the way that most of us will do it.
I'm going to let you do your stuff. Everybody look away from the password. Alrighty, so these are just like a diagnostics report thing, and do you want to share crash data with app developers? No thanks.
Because they're not going to read it even if I do. Actually, that's not entirely true.
Entirely true. I'm sure a few of those guys are out there, and we can't be horrible to all of them. But,
okay, so the first thing I'm scared about is the fact is there's a picture of El Capitan. The only thing to say at that point is El Capitan is in Yosemite. And I don't mean it's part of the OS. I mean the mountain is in the Yosemite National Park.
Yes.
So don't panic.
Yes, we are in Yosemite. This is what we're in. Here it is. Version 10.10.3. So there is a couple of updates to do off of this. That all looks good. As you can see, the first thing that people always go is
where are all my drives?
Where are all my drives? Now what you do is you go over to Finder, Preferences, and really conveniently it doesn't display them. So there you go. Okay, they haven't all been wiped and lost and all the rest of it. If you are a bit scared of anything happening to your data drives, sample library disks, whatever, just
pull them out.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Mac Pro. Just take them out. Okay, so
try doing that in a trash can.
Yeah, but nevertheless, if you're not into it, just whip them out. So as we said earlier, good thing to do now. Get yourself into the App Store. straight away you can see El Capitan. Now another
No.
little tip for you. I think it's hold down Alt and click, and it says hide update. That will never annoy you again.
Well, there you go. That was worth the video on its own.
But it does. It drives people absolutely bonkers, including me. So, and another quick little tip, what I was saying about earlier with your system prefs, if we go into, where are we? Hold on, sorry. Oh, I think it's in, go into App Store and System Prefs, automatically download updates. Now, the reason for this is not just for the annoying,
That was
bugs.
check for updates, or we want to. We
don't want updates.
Cool.
It automatically is turned on. Now, the reason for this is, every now and then a plugin won't like an update. We're not going to get into all that because it's a minefield, but you'll install that new VST or AU or AAX, and then it doesn't agree with the update you're on, and that's because your system just automatically updates itself all the time. If you want to update it, be in control. Do it yourself, yeah? So all you've got to do is just open the App Store, and it will search for updates.
Yep. Wise words.
So in this instance, because nothing else is installed, I mean, it can see that App Cleaner, you own that. So it's pulled that up. But apart from that, we've got these 3 updates. So these need to be downloaded before you do anything. For the reason being is it's a clean system. So in theory, everything should be happy as Larry. This isn't going to conflict with that. And 10.5 isn't going to have the with Pro Tools 12.2 and all the rest of it. So let's get all those going and be back to it in a sec.
So we've moved on a little bit.
So we've got all of our updates installed. OS X is all kind of primed. This is before anything else third party is on the system. So at this point, this is where I suggested what I said earlier about the third hard drive. If you've got one, this isn't essential, but if you've got one, it really, really helps to not have to redo everything we just did if it all kind of goes wrong.
Belly up.
Yeah. If you install maybe one AU or whatever that doesn't work with the keyboard drive or whatever, it's just good to have this. So I've downloaded Carbon Copy Cloner from bombbeach.com. And it's a really nice, easy to use GUI here. So Clean OS is our source. So this is a new one that we've just done. As you can see, all nice and clean. What was you on your old drive?
800 and something.
So just for reference, a Clean OS X with updates sits around about the 10, 11 gig. Lovely. Now that's stripped down. That used to sound like a lot. Now it's stripped down. Now, where we're going to go to is destination vanilla clean OS. So this is just any random hard drive you've got laying about, as long as it's got that capacity of 10 gig or 11 in this case. Quite literally, you just put those 2 in, hit clone, it comes up, ask for the password of the new account you just created, and there we go.
And away we go. Now, because obviously it's only 10 gig and it's from internal drive to internal drive, this will be rapid.
This should be, you're looking at kind of, it's usually about like a gig every 30 to 45 seconds. So this gives you 2 really, really important things. Firstly, the backup, but secondly, you've got that disk that you can just put on the shelf. And even if in a year's time, this needed to happen again, you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
You've already got a disk that's halfway there that you can just pop into the machine, clone it back to another SSD, or even if a disk fails, you've just got something up on the shelf. And everyone's got an old hard drive laying about now. So this is just a really good use for it.
Well, I found one on the shelf that was 60 gig and we went, oh, bless it.
So there you go. I mean, look, we're already nearly on 2 gig in 50 seconds. So this is quick. So if you've got a spare disk, just do it. Just do it, and you've got it on the shelf. Once this is done, I think what we'll do is we'll have a quick look into your old drive again, just because this is the key to this for me has always been just know where stuff is. If you know where it is, then you're in control of it. And if you're in control of it, you're not going to open that session in 6 months' time and go, why doesn't it work? Where's this? Where's that?
Now, the other thing, of course, is that this is not, we've said it before in this video, this is not a quick process. It's now going to take me time to go back to my backed up installers of Pro Tools and of
Yeah.
many and various things
Yeah.
to go and get those and install them afresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
For plugins, I'm going to work through my list of plugins
Yep.
that's on my Pace iLock account
Yep.
and get the fresh ones.
Yep.
Because, and actually, as I go through, what I'm probably going to do is use the plugin update app
Yes.
and
Yeah.
make sure
Works
even
well.
those
Yeah, yeah.
are as up to date as they can be.
Yeah.
It's a methodical, slow process. But of course, it's not stopping me working because all the while I've got the SSD 1T, which is
Exactly.
my original,
Yeah.
my work drive.
Yeah.
It's working. The
Yeah.
only reason we're doing this is to speed me up soon. It hasn't got to speed me up this evening.
No, exactly. And I think what people have to realise is that by doing it this way, it might be like, well, they've got all these drives and da-da-da. By doing it this way, if you're making money by making music or doing film or whatever it may be, you can't afford to be down, can you? So for the sake of, even if you've got to go and buy a couple of drives, they don't cost
A couple
lot
$100
now.
quid
Don't
tops
cost
for
a
2
lot.
drives.
So you'd get those, and you've got to remember, when you start installing all those plugins, you haven't got to do it all straight away. So if you start like today, I mean, what we got is about 5 at night. I'll be going to get my dinner soon. You'll probably want yours soon. But it means that James can come back later, start downloading, going through those lists, work through to 6 a.m., haven't... But you know, you can work for a few hours, then you can leave it, boot back into that old
Exactly.
OS,
Yeah.
and so you've just got to remember, by doing it this way, it takes a little bit longer, might cost you a few quid, but it's fail safe, and that's what we want, isn't it? We want it to be fail safe.
Well, there's a reason you guys at Create Pro are doing the whole zero downtime days. It's because us creatives, it's like having a limb chopped off when
Yeah,
you switch
yeah.
this thing off.
Yeah.
That's the reason you guys are doing it. So by doing this, you're actually limiting your downtime later on should you have a problem.
Exactly.
Touch wood, I haven't had that many.
No.
But I've still had some which have caused me significant levels of grief, and I
Yeah.
didn't like it.
Exactly.
Therefore,
Exactly.
let's avoid those as often as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there you go.
absolutely.
There's our vanilla OS done.
So yeah, so there you go. So it just update the startup cache, and then everything is groovy. I mean, at this point, what you could do is power down the Mac Pro and take this drive out, label it, scribble on the disk, put a bit of gaffer tape on there, put it up on the shelf, and know that if anything goes wrong, or even if you just want to have something safe, you can use that in the future. So it just says we want a recovery partition. This takes,
Might as well.
Yeah, it takes all of a minute to do. So there you go. Look, that was 4 minutes and 2 seconds to do 13 gig. So come on, guys. There's no reason not to do it, is there? Just don't come crying later if you didn't do it. That's all I'm saying.
If you fall over and break both your legs,
Okay, there we go.
it's up and running. Now, of course, we've said that you can get a 30-day trial of Carbon Copy Cloner,
Yes.
but buy it. Do buy it.
Yeah.
These sort of apps and utilities don't just happen by themselves. Buy it. It's not expensive.
I think it's like, I'll tell you what, should we just say what it is? Because this has saved my bacon, literally, over the years. And we're talking, these guys have been going for maybe 10 years or something. We'll just say what it is, because it's giving props to them, isn't it? I think it's only fair. Where are we? I just... Buy it now.
Buy it now.
Taking me through the hoops, but that's all right. £27.50.
Yeah.
There
30,
you go.
30 quid.
How much was Norton back in the days? It's like people spent hundreds and hundreds just on
Exactly.
virus nonsense.
Tech tool and all those sort of things.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so there we go. That's all done. This is just, just options for it. So at this point now, Virgin, Vanilla, Clean OS. Everything's good. We've got a clone. You're going to take that out, put it on the shelf. So before we boot down, and I suppose I hand myself over hardware-wise only to you, we're going to just quickly look back at that disc again. We're going to put it into just the cascading view, just because I want to people have got to get this fixed straight in their head. The library on your old disc, audio, plugins, this is where all of the ones external of AAX or RTAS plugins live. Okay, so components, you can just look through that list. VST, you can look through that list. if you want to get all your presets, you just go to Application Support, and then you can see through here you've got all sorts: G-Force, F-Expansion, Easy Drummer, so on and so forth.
Well, the GeForce stuff hasn't worked since Pro Tools 10. So that's
really?
again because they never ported it.
Right.
I have recently actually. They've just brought them over to AAX.
Right.
But the GeForce stuff is a hang up from Pro Tools 10.
Yeah.
So, there's stuff in there that's sitting. There's probably older versions of Sibelius sat there going.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of all of these, I mean, like, these are just presets. The memory size is minute. They're kilobytes. So even if you wanted to get all of those and just pop them onto a USB stick, and you've got them, it's not so much whether you need them now, but if you're somebody that's been working on a system like you have for up to 6-7 years, then you've just got all this stuff, and I guarantee one day you're going to open that session and go, where's that gone? It's so this is just a good rule of thumb. And obviously what you can now do, seeing as you're in the new OS, is you can get 2 windows up. This is how I do it. And hold on, let's put that into, let's do this maybe an easier way, like that. And this is how I like to do it. So I click on Applications, and this is on your old drive. And sorry, yes it is. And then I click on Applications on my new drive. Now look, I've got 2 lists there, haven't I? So you can just see they're all in alphabetical. All I've got to do is look at that list, and go, hasn't got that, and methodically go through them, download them, and please do download them. Don't just get out the old discs. Or go, I downloaded an installer 2 years ago. I guarantee it either won't work, or there's like 6 updates since then.
Or a classic case of when people used to come in when I was working in sort of high tech retail. People say, "Well, I used the disc that was in the box." So, but that box has been on the shelf for 6 months.
Exactly.
So,
and the world of software doesn't hang about for 6 months. So this is, to me, a very easy way to do it, because once again, do screen grabs, get a pen and paper if you want, and just go, here you go, here they all are. But what that will also allow you to do is say, I never did use that one, so I'll discount that. Because the other way of doing this, which so many people do, is they'll do a migration assistant, or they will just stick in, they'll download, say, Yosemite, like what I was saying. If it just goes into your applications folder, they kick it off, and then all it does is write over the old OS. Everything stays there. So that's why you accumulate all these installers and all these apps, and half of them don't work over time. By doing what we've got, a clean install, but we've got access to everything that's old. So when you ask me, how do you do it, and what's the way to get that speed up to keep it there, this is it. You're kind of doing it from scratch, but you've got reference. And as long as you've got reference, get yourself some strong coffee and just be prepared to just crack on, But we've got the fail-safe. So if at any point this goes wrong, we've got the Vanilla Clean OS. And more to the point, we've done this kind of from scratch, so we know what we're doing.
So I'm in a clean, beautiful place.
Yep.
I've got my backup of my clean, beautiful place.
Yep.
However, I now have to go back to work because a job's come in that's required for a turnaround, and I'm not now going, oh my God, I've got to download Pro Tools. I've still got my old system, and the old system was working absolutely fine.
Yep.
I'm going to use it for today, tomorrow, however long, until I get some downtime, and then I'll go, right, I shall start.
We will just say, before I sign off, to get back into that old OS, all you've got to do is open your system preferences, start up disk, usually on the bottom line, click on that, and if you can catch this on the camera, clean OS.
I'll zoom in a little.
Zoom in on there. Clean OS, that's
Hang
what
on,
we're in
hang
at
on,
the
hang on,
moment.
hang on, hang on. There we go, try that.
Got it?
Yeah.
Clean OS, the one that's highlighted blue is always the one you're currently booted into. SSD 1T, your old one. Vanilla Clean OS, we're about to pull that out and put it on the shelf. So literally, click on your old one, hit restart, off it goes, and you'll be back in your old OS.
Rich, as ever, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
There'll be more of these updates coming from the guys at Create Pro. Rich is telling me all the time about new tech and new toys and new things.
We've got some very, very interesting things coming up.
Well, so stay tuned, if that's the right phrase for the interwebs. And hopefully we'll see you again soon for some more Gear Talk.